Hi, my name is Addie. I've been happily married to my husband, Rob, for 12 years, and together we have 4 beautiful boys. Jackson's 9, Hudson is 4, Grayson's 3, and our son Hayden passed away when he was 5 months old. So I was raised as a Christian. My parents did a really great job at instilling who God was in our lives. We went to church all the time, not just on holidays. We were very involved in, youth group and things within the church community and the family. I remember just being highly active within that community and just feeling like it was a family, and it felt right to us. So as I was growing up, like I said, we were raised in a Christian family, and I really have a very vivid memory when I was probably between 8 and 12, sitting on the steps of my basement with my mom and asking Jesus to come into my heart. And I remember just sitting there and didn't know a whole lot about what I was doing, but I knew that I loved Jesus, I knew that I loved God, and I knew that I was asking him to be my savior. And it was a special time. But unfortunately, as an adult, I didn't take that initiative and that step forward to continue that relationship with God, whereas I don't even think that I really had a relationship with God moving forward. I mean, we still did church here and there, as I was growing up and moved out, but it wasn't anything worthwhile. It was kind of just surface level, and I didn't really, I guess the biggest point is I didn't really know who God was growing up after I left my house. When I, moved out and I'm from Pennsylvania, so when I moved to New Jersey, I got married and kind of dabbled a little bit in different churches. I lived in Hoboken, so I went to church in Hoboken for a while. And then we had Jackson, and I really wanted to make sure that he knew who God was. So we tried a little bit more, but it still wasn't, an every week occurrence for us. It was kind of like, okay, if it works around everything else in our lives, then we'll go. But if it doesn't, then we won't go. And so I feel like it just wasn't a priority in my life at that time until we found out we were pregnant with our second child in 2011, and he was diagnosed with a severe heart defect, and that completely changed my aspect and my thought process on my faith at that point. I immediately turned to God. I immediately thought, okay, we're gonna pray, like prayer works, right? Like, getting many people praying as we can, everything's gonna be good. And, he had a pretty good prognosis. He was having surgeries and people were praying. I'd started a Facebook page for him, and throughout the time we had him, he ended up having over 20,000 followers on this page, and all these people from across the world were, I think, praying for him, praying for miracles right before he'd have a surgery, or there was times we thought we were gonna lose him, and people were praying, So I really turned to God, and I was like, he's gonna give us our miracle, I'm a good person, and we're a good family, and people are praying. What more could we ask for? When he was 5 months old, something went wrong at the hospital and unexpectedly died. And when he died, literally, there were over 20,000 people praying for him. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that all these people from all over the world were praying, and God didn't spare him. I had a bond with Hayden unlike any bond I knew possible with an infant. God knew how much I loved this baby, and I couldn't figure out what I had done wrong to deserve this pain. I was so angry at God. I turned my back on him. What was the point? What was the point of faith? What was the point of prayer? I had all these people praying for him, and so I completely shut down, shut my religion down, shut my life down. A part of me left too, and I was just done. I knew I needed to go to heaven. I knew that I needed to forgive God. I knew I needed to be with Hayden. And even though I turned my back on God and my religion and my faith, I still knew it was there. I still knew that God existed. I still knew deep down Jesus was my savior. And so that was ultimately what made me pursue any type of faith at all, was just the idea that I'm not going there, and I'm not spending my life with him, my eternity with him. So fast forward to 2015, the nonprofit we had for Hayden was really fastly growing, and I had decided to host a retreat for women who had lost a child to congenital heart defects. And so during that retreat, there was an open discussion one day, and I had asked everyone to answer the question, of what is your biggest relationship struggle. And I openly shared that mine was with God. I really was blessed with, supportive family and friends, and I just couldn't get over my hump, my relationship with God. I remember saying to them and being so candid and just crying and saying, he abandoned me. He literally, I had a baby in my arms dying, taking his last breath, and where was God? Nowhere to be found. I felt alone. I felt abandoned. I felt like, I'd lived the last 2 or 3 years before that in so much pain that was like awful to even look at myself in that way. But where was he this whole time? All this pain I was in. And I was struggling. I didn't know how to get past it, but yet I knew I had to get to accept Jesus back into my heart and get to heaven to be with Hayden. So I was really struggling. And about 10 people later, a woman spoke up, and she did not acknowledge her own struggle when she answered her relationship struggle. She acknowledged mine and said that she had felt the exact opposite when her daughter Carolyn had died. That not only did she feel like God was with her, holding her, but literally weeping alongside her. That moment was literally, utterly life-changing for me. I mean, I sat across from her and I thought, this woman has the same loss I have. Her daughter died too, yet here she sits, still worshiping God, still having so much faith in Him, believing in Him, trusting in Him, and why can't I? I ran as far as I could from God, and she ran as fast as she could toward Him. Why couldn't I do the same thing? Well, baptism, I've seen the baptisms happen here at Skyline, and every time I would see them, I think they're very beautiful, and every time I thought that would never be me. I've already been baptized, I already believe in God, and Jesus has always been my Savior. But as my faith grew, and as my relationship here in this church grew, I realized that yes, I've always believed in God, and all of that has been accurate, but it's very different. It's very different to believe that there's a God and believe that Jesus is your Savior than to act it out and live the life that Jesus is your Savior. I'm learning what God asks of me, and I'm learning how He asks me to be a wife to my husband, and how important that relationship is. And I'm also learning, patience with my children, which is a never-ending battle. But a big lesson I'm also learning is forgiveness for others. I feel like, I sit and think all the time, like, if Jesus can forgive me for all the things I've done, how could I not forgive someone who's hurt me in my path? And so I feel like a lot of life-shifting, altering things have happened to me since I've accepted Jesus back into my heart. And beyond that, I mean, the blessings that I've been given, that He's bestowed upon me, are just endless. I mean, I truly, not to sound cliche, but I do wake up pretty much every morning with a very grateful heart. And I look around me, and I'm usually sandwiched in between some boys in my bed, but grateful. And I've learned this is such a huge part for me. These children are gifts from God. They're not mine. They're God's gifts to me. And yeah, I'd like to have them for well longer than I'm going to live. But even if it is 5 months, it's a blessing. It's taken me a long time to feel that way and to accept that, but I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm a different person. Like, that day when I was 8 or 10 years old, sitting there and asking Jesus into my heart was amazing, and I remember it. However, this type of lifestyle that I live now, where I actually know who Jesus is and know the life that God asks of me, I just knew it was different. It just felt totally, totally different, and I just felt the need to go through this step to fully feel and know that is where my life is at now.